Distension of the abdomen after eating. Yes, naturally. After eating, distension will be there for almost everybody. Huh? It is not common, but in some people it will be uncommon. Their abdomen will be soft even after eating, much eating. Dropsy of the abdomen, enlarged liver, flatulence with much rumbling and fullness. The abdomen is very hard, the liver is hard, inflammation of the peritoneum, sensation of movements in the abdomen from flatus, pain morning and night, pain before menses, pain in right hypochondrium, pain in liver and in the inguinal region. The pains are burning, cramping, cutting, pressing, stitching, tearing, twisting, stitching pains insides of abdomen and in liver. Marked tension in abdomen, tympanic abdomen, extreme constipation with inactivity of the rectum, difficult stool, paralyzed feeling in rectum, constriction of anus, constipation with dry stool, hard, knotty, large and soft, light colored, with much straining, diarrhea painless, with stool copious, leontric, offensive, even putrid, sour, pasty, thin and watery, dysentery with bloody scanty stools, copious offensive flatus. It has cured fistula in anus, itching and crawling of anus, hemorrhoids protrude during stool, sore to touch, worse when walking, bleeding from rectum and anus with stool, itching after stool, moisture about the anus, pain during and after stool, burning during and after stool, pains are pressing, stitching and tearing, marked soreness of anus, paralyzed feeling in rectum, stricture of the rectum not allowing feces to pass, larger than a pencil, was cured. Tenesmus, much urging to stool, urging during stool, ineffectual urging, tenesmus of bladder and retention of urine, pressing pain in the bladder, catarrh of the bladder with much mucus in the urine, urging to urinate at night, worse moving about, better lying, sudden urging, ineffectual urging, frequent urination during the night, involuntary urination during the night and sleep, unsatisfactory urination. The urine is scanty. The prostate gland is enlarged and tender. Emission of prostatic fluid when straining to pass stool. Urethral discharge purulent, greenish yellow, cutting and burning urination. It has cured stricture of the urethra. The urine is copious, later scanty, red, cloudy, burning, containing mucus with sediment, purulent and scanty. It has sandy, purulent and sandy. It has cured diabetes mellitus. Erection at night without thought or dreams. Eruptions on the genitals of the male, on the prepuce. It has cured hydrocele and induration of testis. Marked redness of glans penis. Itching of glans penis and scrotum. Stitching pain in penis. Foul smell on the male genitals. Sweat on the scrotum, seminal emissions, sexual passion increased, sexual desire storing without erections, strong without erections, swollen testis. In the female, the desire is increased, eruptions on the vulva with much itching, heaviness of the uterus and prolapsus, leukorrhea excoriating bloody, copious before and after menses, milky, white or purulent and yellow or yellowish green. Menstrual flow acrid, bright red, copious, too soon, protracted or scanty. Menstrual flow absent or suppressed, painful and irregular. Flow of blood between the menstrual periods. Pain in the uterus, aching, burning, labor-like and tearing. Soreness in the genitals. Ulceration of labia, vagina and os uteri. Chronic irritation of the air passages, larynx and trachea, catarrh of larynx and trachea with copious yellow-green mucus, rawness in the larynx and trachea, phthisis of the larynx. He constantly scrapes the larynx, tickling in the larynx and trachea, respiration fast, asthmatic, deep, difficult during a cough and when lying, rattling, short, sighing and suffocative. It is one of our greatest cough remedies in physical subjects. The cough comes at night, but also morning after rising and in the evening in bed. Cough from cold air, from cold damp air, asthmatic, from cold drinks. It has a dry cough at night, with much expectoration in the morning. Cough during fever, hacking, hoarse cough, cough from irritation of the larynx and trachea, hoarse cough, especially in the morning, paroxysmal spasmodic cough, in the evening, racking the whole body. Cough worse lying, talking, virulent cough after waking in the morning. Because this calcarea, actually calcarea is, basically calcarea is sensitive to cold and silicea also sensitive to cold. So the whole remedy. Expectoration in the morning, bloody, greenish yellow, copious, offensive, purulent, thick, viscid, sometimes white. It has cured abscess of lungs and axilla. It has restrained cancerous ulcerations of mammary. It has cured desperate cases of catarrh of the bronchial tubes, constriction of chest, eruption of chest, and excoriation of the nipples, hemorrhage of the lungs, chronic inflammation of the bronchial tubes and lungs, oppression of the chest. The milk is suppressed or absent, pain in both lungs, pain in chest during a cough or inspiration and deep breathing, pain in the sides of chest. The pains in the chest are burning, pressing, soreness, stitching and rawness in the chest. Stitching pains are inspiring insides of chest, and in the mammary glands. Palpitation of heart at night, after eating, from exertion, and even from slight motion. Perspiration all over the chest. Physical conditions, extreme weakness of chest. The back feels cold, and in these instances, sometimes, for example, in physical cases, we cannot give silicea directly. When there is phthisis, tuberculosis is there, silicea we cannot give. Silicea, heparsol, phosphorus, sulfur. So in those cases, when that remedy is indicated, what we have to do? Suppose phosphorus is indicated. Only phosphorus we have to give in that case. Then what we can do? If we give phosphorus, the patient will collapse. So the combination we can give acid phos, we can give calcarea phos, we can give like that. In the same way, when silicea is indicated, we cannot give silicea directly. Like this calcarea silicata. The back feels cold. In the same way, sulfur also. So when sulfur is indicated, you cannot give sulfur directly. Huh? So we can give heparsol also we cannot give. How can we give tuberculosis? Calcarea sulf may be given, but most probably Cali sulf we can give safely. Sulfur iodatum we can give safely. When there are symptoms of sulfur and iodatum also, we can give sulfur iode. In tuberculosis advanced cases also. Cali sulf is also safe. The back feels cold, and there is a sensation of coldness in the back of neck and sacrum. Eruption in the cervical region, pimples and pustules, itching of the back, much pain in the back, especially at night. Pain in the back during menses, on motion, rising from sitting and while sitting. Pain in the cervical region, scapula and in the spine between the scapulae. Pain in lumbar region when rising from a seat. Pain in coccyx. Hard aching in the back in lumbar region when rising from a seat and in the sacrum. Drawing pain in the lumbar region, pressing pain in the lumbar region. The spine is so sore to touch in many places. Stitching pains in the cervical region, scapulae, lumbar region and sacrum. tearing pains in the cervical region, perspiration on the back, worse on back of the neck, stiffness of the back, especially of the cervical region, stiff neck, tension in the cervical region, weakness of the back, weakness of the lumbar region. It is a remedy for gouty nodosities of the fingers, awkwardness of the limbs, caries of the bones, caries of the bone, chopped hands, chronic jerking of muscles, coldness of all the limbs, hands, palms, lower limbs, legs, feet, evening and night, contractions of tendons of hands and fingers, many corns, painful, sore and stinging, cracked hands and fingers, cramps in the hands, lower limbs, calves, feet, soles, toes, eruptions, vesicles, boils on the upper limbs, vesicles on the upper limbs and fingers, eruptions on the lower limbs, itching, pimples, boils on the thighs, phalanx of the fingers, heat of hands, palms, of the feet, heaviness of all the limbs, especially of legs and feet. It has been of great service in hip joint disease, inflammation of all the joints, intense itching of all the limbs, thighs and legs. The nails have ceased to grow for 2 years. అసలు పెరగలేట నెయిల్స్ అలా ఉండిపోయి కష్టం కదా ఏంటి పెరగకపోతే కష్టం కదా పెరగాలి కదా. The nails are hard and brittle. Numbness of all the limbs, upper limbs numb when lying on them, numbness of hands and fingers, numbness of lower limbs, legs and feet when sitting, rheumatic and gouty pains in limbs, joints and bones, evening and night, pain in upper limbs at night, worse from cold, motion and taking hold of anything, pain in shoulders, upper arm, elbow, forearm, fingers and finger joints, pain in the lower limbs and pain in the sciatic nerve, violent pains in the hip joint, pain in the hip joint as if an abscess were forming, pain in thigh, knee, calf, foot and toes, aching in all the limbs with stiffness in cold damp weather, aching in the shoulder worse from motion, burning feet and soles, drawing pain in upper arm, forearm, wrist and hand, drawing pain in the knee and leg, sore bruised pains in upper limbs and thighs, sensation as if sprained in wrist and ankle, stitching pains in the joints, stitching pains in the shoulders, upper arm, elbow, wrist and fingers, stitching pains in hips, knees, calf, ankle, foot, sole, heel, toes, especially the great toe, tearing pain in shoulder, upper arm, elbow, forearm, wrist, hand, fingers and finger joints, tearing pain in nights, knee, leg, calf, foot, soles, toes and especially the great toe, sensation of paralysis in upper limbs and in hands, paralysis in lower limbs, cold sweat on all the limbs, cold sweat of palms of hands. ఇంచేత సైలీషియాలో ఉంది కదా, calcarea silicata కదా. Cold sweat of feet, offensive cold sweat of feet, stiffness of all limbs, joints, hands and fingers, stiffness of lower limbs, knees, swelling of hands, knees, legs, ankles, feet, tingling of the fingers, trembling of the upper limbs, of the hands, of the lower limbs, twitching of the upper limbs, thighs and legs, ulceration of lower limbs, legs, varicose veins, warts on the hands, on the dorsum of the thumb, on the ball of the thumb, large hard seed warts, weakness of all the limbs and especially the joints, weakness of thighs, knees, legs, calves and feet, dreams of anger, dreams of anger, anxious of business, confused, amorous, of the dead, of death, of disease, fantastic, fire, frightful, horrible, murder, nightmare, vivid, vexatious, visionary, dreams of sick people and caring for sick people. A hideous old woman's face appeared in her dreams. Sleep is restless, sleepiness in the morning, forenoon and evening, after dinner, after eating, sleeplessness before midnight, sleeplessness with sleepiness, sleepless from much thinking. ఇంతకన్నా నరకం ఏముంటుంది? Calcarea వాడికి అసలు for calcarea patient, night he will be having much restlessness. To prevent the, in calcarea he explains, to prevent the thoughts, he walks here and there in a speedy manner. Sleepless from much thinking. After once waking, cannot sleep again. Unrefreshing sleep. Waking early and frequent. Yawning. Chill in the morning, forenoon and evening. In the open air, in the cold air. Even in bed. After eating, external and internal. Shaking chill. Chill with trembling. From uncovering. Warm room does not relieve. Desires warmth, but it does not relieve. Chilliness during stool. Fever forenoon and afternoon, but marked fever in evening and night. Fever alternating with chill. Dry heat at the night in bed. External heat with chilliness. Flashes of heat. It is useful in hectic fevers. Mild fever evening and night. Heat with moist skin. Perspiration in the morning and latter part of the night. Perspiration with great anxiety. Cold sweat mostly on the extremities. Cold sweat from coughing during and after eating, from exertion, from mental exertion, sweat from motion, from walking, profuse hot sweat, sweat of single parts, sweat during and after sleep, offensive, sour sweat, uncovering while sweating brings on many symptoms. If the perspiration becomes suppressed from uncovering or from a draft, he suffers much. Burning of the skin after scratching. The skin is cold to touch. The skin of the hands and fingers cracked. The skin is discolored, bluish, liver spots, pale, red spots, white spots, yellow, dry burning skin and inability to perspire. Eruptions are biting, burning, itching, painful, phasogenic, stinging, boils and chopping and discriminating, eczema and herpes, dry itching, crusting, stinging herpes. Eruptions discharge a white pus-like substance. There are pimples, pustules and red rashes. Eruptions scabby and scaly after scratching. Suppurating eruptions, nodular urticaria after scratching. Vesicles in many parts, erysipelas with swelling, worse from scratching, excrescences from form upon the skin, formication and goose flesh, indurations, intertrigo, itching with and without eruptions, itching, biting, burning, crawling and stinging, worse after scratching. The itching is ameliorated by radiated heat. It has cured lupus. The skin becomes moist after scratching. The skin is very sensitive, sore feeling and sore raw places of the on the skin. Sticking and stinging after scratching. Ulceration of the skin and ulcers bluish. Burning, cancerous, crusty, deep, corrosive, offensive with yellow pus, fistulous, foul, indolent, indurated, stinging and unhealthy. Warts, painful, hard, inflamed, stinging, suppurating and withered. It has cured veins and other cystic growths. So that is Calcarea silicata.